Welcome to SuperConnectivity Infinity Gems Edition. Well, maybe not an entire edition about the Infinity Gems, but I do want to talk briefly about it because I did see a recent meme, and I want to talk about the identities of the Infinity Stones. Because for some reason, people are really pushing the idea that the gemstone in Guardians of the Galaxy was the Power Stone. The gemstone in Thor 2 was the Reality Stone, and the other two stones, the Tesseract is the Space Stone, and of course Loki's Scepter Stone is the Mind Stone. Those two I think are pretty well established. The Tesseract opens doors in space, so it is clearly the Space Stone. The Mind Stone controls people's minds, so it's clearly the Mind Stone. But for some reason, people are suggesting that the Aether is the Reality Stone. And I really object to this because I believe they're basing that fact, that the Aether is the Reality Stone, on the fact that gravity became unhinged when the stone revealed itself. However, I don't think that was related to the stone. I think that was related to the alignment of the worlds, and that's why gravity went kaflooey. That's why you got all these curvatures in space-time causing dimensional rifts. But the actual stone itself, when we actually see the Aether being used, the power it bestows is super strength and endurance, which is what the Power Stone tends to confer. So the champion held the Power Stone because it made him even stronger, even faster, even more of the champion. Champion being the Elder of the Universe who held the Power Stone for a couple decades in Marvel Comics. For those who were not aware, the Elders of the Universe all at one point each had one of the Power Stones or one of the Infinity Stones that they held themselves. This was sort of this idea to sort of keep them safe. If one of these ancient beings held it, then people would have a difficult time, A, getting them away from them, B, bringing them all together, and C, just in general, using them for ill purposes, because even though some of the Elders of the Universe were technically villains, like the Collector, they were, I guess, deemed trustworthy enough by the powers that be of the universe to hold them anyway. The Champion is the Elder of the Universe for whom a lifetime of competition has been his defense against death. The idea behind the Elders of the Universe was they were all from the oldest races in the universe who had found a way to avoid death by becoming monomaniacally dedicated to one thing. So the gardener was the world's greatest gardener. And so by only focusing on plant life and how to bring it into being, he could actually live forever because he always had more work to do. The Collector had to catch them all. The Champion was a fighter. The Runner liked to run. He ran. He liked to run and just kept on running, and that's why he lived forever. I'm guessing someone at Marvel was a jogger at the time. The Elders of the Universe are canon, and they're there. And man, now that I say it, I really want to see the Runner in the next Guardians of the Galaxy. We had the Collector, his brother the Runner could come in. You don't see the Runner as much in things. You see a lot of the Collector and the Grandmaster and occasionally the Champion. Maybe sometimes the Gardener. The Contemplator perhaps, but yeah, the Runner, I think he was in charge of the interdimensional speedster competition, of which Buried Alien won.
Yes.
But aside from that, I don't think the Runner has had a lot of work in the Marvel universe and such. But then again, he's the guy who's running all the time, so he's too busy. Moving right along. So anyway, but this is how we know what the Power Gem does, because the Champion actually had the Power Gem in his possession for a long time and was actually shown using it. And what it does is it gives you super strength, it gives you super endurance, which is what we see the Dark Elves when they embody the power of the Aether gaining. They get strong, they get Okay. I just wanted to make sure because I know we had that one thing where you could hear me, but it wasn't recording.
Yeah,
So
no, we're good.
Okay, we're good. So anyway, so what was the last thing I said? So we see that, like the champion, when the Power Stone was used, we see the Dark Elves gaining the physical traits that the champion was shown to display: increased stamina, perhaps a little bit more warlike. Likewise, we see in Jane Foster, when she has it, we see that she has immense strength, immense power. And we don't see her like physically tossing people around, but we do see her putting the shields up. And that, I think, is also very much well within the realm of what the Power Stone is said to do. Again, another point I wanted to make about this with what they say in Guardians of the Galaxy, which is that only special people can hold, these gemstones. Again, yes, it was hurting her, but it did not seem to be nearly as bad as what people touching the orb were going through. So I got to say that again, humanity naturally suited to just being awesome.
No.
Anyway, but that's the power gem. So I think thinking the ether is anything other than the power gem, I think, is just ludicrous. And as far as I know, Marvel Comics has not named any of the stones. I don't think they intend to name the stones because I think that they think that naming the stones kind of limits them. And you can see what they kind of are based on the powers they represent. The Tesseract bends space, so it is the Space Stone. The Mind Stone controls minds. It is the Mind Stone. The ether is something that's giving people strength, giving people power. So thinking it is anything other than the Power Stone, I think is mistaken. As I said, people saying that it might be the Reality Stone because it's altering the laws of physics. I think the laws of physics were pretty clearly displayed to be that was because of the alignment, not because of the presence of the Power Stone. The Power Stone that we see is imbuing power into the Dark Elves, imbuing power into Jane Foster. Moving on from there, I believe, and granted this one is more questionable, but I believe that the orb is the Soul Stone. There are people saying it is the Time Stone or the Power Stone. Actually, no, people are saying it's the Power Stone, which is just completely wrong. It's just blatantly wrong. It is not the Power Stone. It does nothing the Power Stone is supposed to do. The only time we really see it doing anything, we see it does two things. One is that it can kill things, and they make a point that it kills all life, which means it's not that it's blowing up stuff, it's ending life. And to me, ending life would mean the removal of that thing's life essence or its soul. So when the soul gem mows down all life on a planet, it's not doing it by blowing it up, it's doing it by essentially taking that life energy from it so that it just crumbles away into dust, so that it becomes inorganic. Along those lines, what I also think implies the Soul Stone is that when Peter Quill touches it, he communicates with his mother, who is dead. So to me, that communication with the departed is something else that relates it to the Soul Stone. So for my money, that's what the four gems we have right now are: the Soul Stone, the Power Stone, the Space Stone, and the Mind Stone, which leaves reality, time, and there's a seventh stone, isn't there?
Wait, a stepping stone?
No, I thought there was some. How many members of the Illuminati were there? Because each had a stone.
Well, the gauntlet holds 6. The Infinity Gauntlet holds 6, right? I think.
Yeah. Okay, so then it's just time and reality that are missing. I can imagine the Reality Stone showing up in Doctor Strange because, again, something that deals with altered reality, unreal states. The Reality Stone seems like it would fit to Doctor Strange, and somewhere where that altered reality could be shown more effectively than what we've seen in than what we saw in, like I said, Thor 2. I don't think anything about Thor 2 implied the Reality Stone. I mean, you could possibly argue that the orb could be the Reality Stone because, seeing your dead mom is kind of an odd reality thing. But since we have a Soul Stone, I think that it fits more clearly with the Soul Stone.
Yeah.
The Time Stone is a possibility in the idea that maybe he's traveling through time. But then why does the Soul Stone kill people? And of course, the reason why it kills people is it pulls their souls out of their bodies. That's sort of that's my analysis of it. So that's my take on the Infinity Gems. And I just wanted to get that out of the way because I got into a little fight on Facebook with someone who was saying, no, it's these things. And it's like, based on what evidence, Based on what evidence? It's like, you can say, well, first off, you can't go by the colors because first off, Marvel has said that the colors were kind of randomly chosen. They don't actually relate to the stones in the comics, and the colors of the stones in the comics actually have changed over time. So that in sometimes the Power Stone is red, other times it has been yellow. Sometimes the Reality Stone is yellow. Sometimes the Soul Stone is yellow. So they're items of immense cosmic import. They're going to change colors. And so, so that's my take on that. Because I think when we're trying to do this cross comic book idea, you do have to look at what are we seeing? What is the images we're getting? How is it being used? And to that extent, just to tie this in, I actually think Alil is right on his theory of what has infected Agent Ward on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. As you know, Alil suggested that he's been infected by the being called the Hive, which is, of course, the living embodiment of Hydra. And it is a bunch of weird, snaky things that attach itself as parasites to a creature. Now, here's what I'm gonna kind of flip the script on that, because I think it is the Hive, and I think they may refer to him as the Hive, but I also get the feeling they're going to show him with Venom symbiotic powers, and I think that the Venom symbiote is going to get brought into it through this character of the Hive. And my reasoning on this is that the Hive in the comic books, the eel things are all external, whereas here the eel things are all internal. We also only see one eel thing, whereas in the comics it's like dozens and dozens all over his body, or at least on his head. The eel thing in the comics is, I think, merged with Madam Hydra at some point, and that's cool too. But with Ward, I gotta feel like, because that's the thing, is they do these Marvel characters, but then they change them. They change them in certain ways to make them more effective. And one of the things that they do that I've seen them do, or that I feel that they are doing, is they take a character that they don't have the rights to, and then they sort of create another character that's similar to that character, that's going to have powers like that character, and we're going to see what that does. And to that extent, I think that I don't think I've mentioned this yet, but I actually believe that the Melty guy, the guy that we were calling the Melter, his actual power is going to be that he is the Molecule Man, because essentially what they've shown him doing is he's manipulating the molecular bonds of substances, and we've seen him break them down, and now we've seen him form them into spheres. And how long until he's focusing his hand out and making inorganic matter dance to his whim? Now, they could keep him a hero. They could make him a villain. Molecule Man is a very complex character. And I like the idea that this could be the MCU's Molecule Man as a variation on the Molecule Man that we've seen in the comics. And the idea of opening up this possibility for a superpowered being of immense magnitude on the TV show could be really interesting. I would really like to see that. So, and likewise in that we've seen the Asian Magneto already in this universe. So I think jumping and going Magneto, Molecule Man, and other characters they don't have, but now we can reintroduce them in a sort of revised way. We won't call them Magneto, just like we won't call Quicksilver Quicksilver. We won't call the Scarlet Witch the Scarlet Witch. They're the twins. They're the Maximoff twins. I think that is a neat way to approach it, to reimagine these characters in slightly different ways so that they are original characters, but then we can explore these stories and these concepts and these characters within that realm. I mean, when we look at Angar the Screamer, who was introduced, or even Mr. Hyde, who has been introduced, they're very different in their storyline, in their depiction, in the way that they've evolved and come into being. and their power sets are slightly different too. Those are characters that they had the rights to, but why couldn't they do that same thing with a character they didn't have the rights to, and work them in? It's like I say, and with a character like Venom, even if they do have the rights to Venom now, they didn't have the rights to Venom necessarily when they started writing these stories. And they have said, well, we want to introduce this. Let's find a way we can Venom using a character we do have the rights to or a concept we do have the rights to and build it out. And so here we have alien symbiotic creature on another world possessing people's bodies. And I would love to see this evolve into a real Venom character. And I do think that will be in there. I think they're going to use the Hive character as the basis. But I think we're going to see as Ward evolves next season or next half of this season, we're going to see him much more behaving like Venom. And if they have the rights fully that they can call him Venom, I think they may well call him Venom. That it was, basing on Hive, and now they're going to push it to Venom as they need to. It'll be interesting, but that's what's fun about these movies, and that's what's great with when you're watching these movies and you're trying to say, oh, everybody is somebody. And what you have to do when you say everyone is someone is you have to break them down, which is one of the reasons I never really got behind the Ward as Taskmaster idea, because Ward never showed any of the powers of Taskmaster, nor any of his modern detriments. He was just Ward. He was his own thing. And to some extent, I've always felt that Ward was better and stronger as his own thing. I actually kind of hope that we do get Ward back as not the Venom symbiote, but as Ward as himself. And of course, if the symbiote has repaired him and they remove the symbiote and they put it in a little glass jar for Simmons to look at, and then he escapes, it would be very interesting. And then we could get Ward back, because I do like Ward. I do really like Ward as a character. I think, and I'm really upset that they haven't really introduced him in the comics yet. I was really hoping when they did do the S.H.I.E.L.D. based on the S.H.I.E.L.D. characters that we were going to get, Agent Ward as the guy that they had in a holding cell somewhere, the betrayer of S.H.I.E.L.D., the betrayer of Coulson, and to bring him up, Of course, Coulson's history is very different in the current Marvel comics than it is in the MCU too. So it's always very interesting how they manipulate these stories back and forth, where, the comic book Coulson, he's much younger, he's still very much in control, he's still very much a guy who's very knowledgeable. But his origin is actually that he is a relatively new recruit to S.H.I.E.L.D., only as long as Nick Fury Jr. has been a recruit to S.H.I.E.L.D., although both of them clearly have moved up the ranks very quickly. Thank you, nepotism. Nepotism and cronyism combined, because, Nick Fury Jr. moves up, and then Coulson moves up, and now they're both running their own shows. But like I said, but the Coulson of the comic books, he's a very different character than the Coulson of the TV series, and that's not bad. And I'd like to see a Coulson of an Agent Ward of the comic books come in, as this, ultimate evil badass character that is going to be the counterpoint to Coulson, the villain that Coulson can never quite catch, and just waiting to put a repulsor through his chest, Yeah, I don't know. But that's the next half season of S.H.I.E.L.D. We'll have to see if any of these things pan out. Is there anything that's been striking you as interesting in the world of comic books, Phil?
Well, yesterday, Christmas Day, I didn't get to finish it. I got interrupted, because it was a busy day, Christmas. But we got another Deadpool trailer.
Oh, we did.
Yes.
I did see that. I did see a posting for Deadpool trailer, but I didn't know if it was a new one. But it had him in a cab, so I'm thinking it was a new one. I didn't get to watch that one yet either.
Yeah, and when we were over my in-laws' house and the TV was on, there was actually a TV commercial for Deadpool. So
yeah, well, I gotta say, I actually think that Deadpool is going to be really surprising at how popular it's going to be. I think that this is going to really be surprising to people how much, and the whole Deadpool emoji crashing thing. I know. I think, like I said, I think that really speaks to a silent popularity of Deadpool. I mean, not silent because he is the most popular character at Marvel. I think certainly a fan favorite. But I think his sales hold it up as well. That Deadpool sells, and I think that we're going to be seeing that Deadpool is going to really put Fox, really, I think, in an awkward position because they're going to be in this spot where their Deadpool is more popular than their X-Men.
Oh yeah.
I think that they're going to be like, we don't want to build a whole super universe around Deadpool. Or maybe they'll say we want to, and then that's going to lead to the Deadpoolification of the other X-Men stories, and that might be weird too. So, but I do think that this is going to be, you've been seeing some memes out there about, Batman versus Superman versus Captain America versus Iron Man, and they do have Deadpool kind of, cracking wise at the end of those, and I do think that that's going to be the coda for 2016 is Deadpool cracking wise about both those films. So I think Deadpool is going to bring in an audience that is not a traditional comic book audience, but and it's going to cross. It's going to have the comedy people, it's going to have the action people, it's going to have the horror people. You're going to get a really interesting wide range. I think that Ryan Reynolds is actually going to get a lot of praise for his performance in this. If they don't make him, and I do think that they're letting him have some pathos too. From the trailers we see that before the Deadpoolification, he has, he has a sad wit to him, that he's still cracking wise, but at the same time, you can see he's going through some pretty heavy stuff, and you can see it in himself that he is going through that internally, even as he's putting on the clown's front, which I think is so much of what defines the character of Deadpool. Like I said, I was always worried when Green Lantern came out. As I said, man, if Green Lantern means we don't get a Deadpool, I am so mad at you, DC. And I almost feel that was their intention. If you want to wax conspiratorial, you can see Warner saying, how can we ensure that Marvel does not release the power of Deadpool? I know. Let's cast him in the most improper character for Ryan Reynolds ever. We'll make him Hal Jordan. And that, whereas, they shot themselves in the foot hoping that would kill Deadpool. But Deadpool has risen from the dead because Deadpool is never more dangerous than when he is dead. And I'm really excited about it. I mean, I have to say I'm not going to say I'm more excited about Captain America versus Iron Man. I'm actually probably more excited about Deadpool. I think I'm going to go see Deadpool. My youngest son really loves Deadpool, which is awkward because he's 6. So I don't think my older son, who is a very sensitive kid, is going to be able to handle Deadpool, but he might insist to come. But I'm definitely seeing Deadpool is one I'm seeing by myself first, and I might see it by myself again because I think that's going to be a 3-time movie. And I'm really excited about it, unless it really, really is bad the first time. But here's what I got to say. You had Fantastic Four, and you could have input Deadpool in it, and then you might have saved that film. That's what that film needed, was a third act Deadpool appearance.
I'm going to go on record and say Deadpool's probably going to be like the highest grossing superhero movie for Fox.
Oh, yes, definitely for Fox. Yeah. I mean, here's the thing. It's hard to really say. I think it could be Batman v Superman or Civil War. Here's the thing. Because Batman v Superman comes out first, right? Or the Civil War?
No. Deadpool comes out first in February.
Oh, okay. So Deadpool's going to come out first. I'm saying Batman v Superman. Then in that case, then maybe it will, quite frankly. Although I think maybe based on the success of Deadpool, I think maybe that might give Batman v Superman a boost. Here's the thing about Batman v Superman. If it's not good, and this is, here's the problem with Batman v Superman, is it is really set up in every way to fail. It really is. It's half built on a poorly established franchise, which is the Superman franchise, the second reboot of Superman franchise, which is, it has no support system from cross media like, Marvel has with its Shield and with, its Netflix series, where at least you have some amount of cross promotion between the worlds, and there is always this hope that there's going to be some kind of a cameo crossover. Which is, of course, I think people are expecting that in Captain America, that there's going to be some mention of Daredevil, some mention of Jessica Jones, some mention of Luke Cage, all these things building into our Captain America Iron Man thing, whereas, Supergirl, I think, is actually supposed to be based on the Superman Returns series, right? It's actually the first failed reboot of Superman.
I don't know. I haven't heard.
I've heard some references that's what it's supposed to. That's where it sort of sits canonically. That there's some reference in that first episode that kind of suggests that. I don't know per se, but I could imagine that. But in which case, it's just such a wacky thing for them to do. It's weird for them to have their separate universes to start with. Although, as we've seen, Flash can tie those universes together. But it just seems weird to actively fight against it, and especially if they're not going to do something radically different, because they're saying that the Flash does appear in Dawn of Justice, but the movie Flash, not the TV Flash.
Yeah.
And it's just unless they're going to be basing him on Impulse, or a third Flash, okay, maybe that has some value. I'm not quite certain. I don't necessarily know. The rumors right now are that basically we've seen about as much of Wonder Woman as actually in the film. That's
oh, jeez.
Yeah, that's worrisome, quite frankly. There was some suggestion that Wonder Woman is basically a glorified cameo, that we see her in that final scene, and we get, is she with you? I thought she was with you. And then she kicks some butt and then disappears. Which I hope is false, because these rumors can very easily be false.
Oh, yeah.
Although, it would not surprise me, because story-wise, DC does have some problems with a lot of things.
That's the whole problem these days with Superman. I mean, the comics and even these movies, they're trying to make Batman so popular, they're trying to darken up Superman, and that's not who Superman's supposed to be. He's supposed to be that bright shining beacon to everyone else. He's like the Captain America of the DC universe, the Boy Scout.
Yep. The cynical millionaire versus the true blue patriot. Although in both sides, maybe we actually see that they do, Captain America is, on against the side of law and order on this,
Uh-huh.
It's always shocking in this, but, it makes some sense, because of course it's, I don't think it's Cap is worried about the idea of training heroes. I think Cap is very much into training heroes. I think that what Cap's problem always is this idea with registration was the forced aspect of it. That, as we saw in in Hellcat this week, there's a lot of people with powers who don't want to be superheroes. And of course, going back to the Civil War storyline, the Cloud9 story is iconic in that she was just a girl who wanted to fly, and and because they brought her in, they made her into a killer. They taught her to be a sniper, because of course that's a pretty cool thing for a sniper to have, to be able to sit on a cloud anywhere and be seen. That's pretty dang awesome when you think about it. And she became a really hardcore stone cold killer, and she was just a teenage girl who prior to that just wanted to fly. And but through the training process they brought out her killer instinct, and it's something that is one of those things that kind of messes with her. It's all very interesting exactly how they've explored these characters over the years, and to that extent I think that's the biggest selling point for Captain America Captain America Civil War. I think that it's coming in with people expecting more depth and going to be willing to see more depth in the story than I think what we so far know is what we're going to be in Superman versus Batman, because I think Superman v Batman is coming in, and people don't necessarily know what to expect. And one of the problems when you don't know what to expect is you start to get ideas in your head of what you'd like to see, and then when you don't see that, you get really mad. Unless they do something really great and they go, oh, okay, I really like what they did there, even though it wasn't what I expected. But how often does that happen? I would really like to see, something interesting and solid happen with Batman v Superman, because I do think that a strong DC leads to a strong Marvel, and a strong superhero cinematic universe is going to be good for everybody. I do feel like there is this, what I've always, here's what I'll say. I always felt that DC could do a Justice League movie first. Because I felt that if they wanted to do a universe with an established idea that this is the universe of superheroes, this is where superheroes are, this is what superheroes are, that I could absolutely see that as a viable concept. But they're not doing that either, because I thought, you do this idea of, and you basically tell the Squadron Supreme the identity crisis story or something like that, where you have the established Justice League, but then you have a new recruit, ostensibly Cyborg, who sees something that makes him uneasy with the concept of the Justice League. And that's when you get your storyline. And you could even do that with Batman v Superman, with the idea of Batman being the character who realizes the Justice League has lost its way, and this causes some kind of conflict between them. Although then they realize they've been manipulated, and yada yada yada. And you get that storyline you can explore. Instead, what they're doing is they're doing a story that's sort of half measures of all these things, because Batman exists and is an established hero in his own right in this universe, but it's not the Batman we've already seen. And Superman is the Superman we've already seen, but we didn't really have much mention of Batman in the last film. So, it's connected, but loosely connected, and and now we're going to throw in Wonder Woman and Aquaman too, because we can, and and I get the idea that they want to lock down these actors. Actually, I don't really get the idea that they want to lock down these actors right now. I mean, to me, it's like, here's what I'll say. Introducing Wonder Woman is fine if you're going to give Wonder Woman a story. Introducing Aquaman is fine if you're going to give Aquaman a story. And I think they're going to name more, from the rumors, they're going to name more Aquaman up. They're going to basically, he is making war on the surface world.
Oh, yeah.
Crimes against Atlantis. Where have I heard this again? He has a giant hoofed whale named Giganto who's attacking the city. Oh, wait, no. Okay. Something similar, but not quite. Sea monsters, those are the worst. Yeah, so it's it has a lot of potential to be a great success. But I think that if it comes back with, here's what I'll say. It has to be better than Fantastic Four. And by that statement, what I'm saying is critics have to say more than it was better than Fantastic Four. They have to come back and really say, this was a great film and a game changer. And I think, following on the heels of Deadpool, which is going to be such a surprise hit. It's going to be a surprise hit no matter what. People knew it was going to be successful, but it's another superhero film. But I think it's going to have a cross-cultural appeal. I think that they're from everything that's been rumored, it seems like they got the tone hitting that perfect balance for the character. And that's going to really sell it and give it legs to the extent that, who knows, Deadpool may still be hanging around when Superman and Batman show up, which would be fine by me. But then it puts Superman and Batman in an awkward position. And one thing I think that DC has a hard time with is being in an awkward position, where, and we see this in their trailers, where they said the first trailer was too dark. Okay, so we'll make a nice light trailer. So now everybody will be happy,
Yeah.
Skodo says miniature American flags for the others. It's you can't give people what they want. You have to give them a good story and hope they like it. And I think that's what, and hopefully that is what DC is going to do. Hopefully DC made a good story first and did fan service second. Because as we've said, as the MCU has shown us, the fans will come if it's a good story.
Yeah.
Even if it's not pure fan service, if it's a good story, they're going to say, "Oh, okay, yeah, this is good. I like this." I liked Lou Ferrigno's Incredible Hulk. It wasn't the series, it wasn't the comic book, but it was good, and so we liked it, and so we watched it and we enjoyed it. Iron Man's story is very close to its original, but deviates in very key aspects. But that still made for a good story. Same with Captain America. Same with Thor and Iron Man and everything. Iron Man said twice, but Thor and Daredevil. And Daredevil's probably the closest to the comics, I think. But that's fine. Yeah, Netflix hews a little closer to the comics, but they're good comics. They're hewing close to,
Yeah.
Yeah. Although again, I'm glad Wilson Fisk is alive. I really wish I hadn't put him in jail. I do wish Marvel would stop killing good villains. I really want Marvel to bring Purple Man back. And again, I'm giving this to you free. Introduce Damien Hellstorm. Damien Hellstorm does magic to save the day, but because magic has a cost, he must now undo the good he did by bringing great evil back into the world. Hence, we resurrect Purple Man. This is for you for free, Netflix. You don't have to give me credit. Just use it. Just make a good story, and you can use that. And then maybe remember me. Say, hey, that guy who had that good idea that we stole, who we said we could steal it? Yeah, that was real cool of him. Let's see if he has any other good ideas, and maybe we'll pay him for the next one. I'm willing to do that, man. I'm willing to do that. But just make a good story. And that's my wish. That is my Christmas wish. I was hoping I could. We're actually recording this on Boxing Day, the day after Christmas, and I meant to look it up and I forgot to. Marvel a couple years back published a bunch of Marvel themed Christmas songs, and they were the Xmas songs because they were all about the X-Men, and they were like, "We wish you would buy more X-Men. We wish you would buy more X-Men. We wish you would buy more X-Men." And the annuals too. The stories we bring have a certain something. We wish you would buy more X-Men, and the annuals too. And the other one I remember is, "We three genes all think it's a shame that we are all one and the same. We're elected to be resurrected again and again and again and again." Apparently, so. It's like now, like in that one, they actually had to have Rachel Summers as one of the three genes. Now you could actually have Gene and Gene and Gene. So young Gene is the latest Gene to be resurrected and making that song once more relevant. Oh, and on that happy Christmas note, I think we've had enough of connections for this week. What do you think, Phil?
Yeah, it seems like we hit a lot.
Okay, great, man. Where can they find you, Phil, if they want to complain to you about my crazy theories? They want to commiserate with you, and you can write back and say, "I know," and I have to listen to them every week.
If you want to join the Charlie Esser fan club, you can email me, nightwingpdp@gmail.com, and on Twitter, I am @nightwingpdp.
And if you'd like to write to me and tell me how great Phil is, as I'm sure you all do, ask why does someone of his talent waste his time with you? And soon you're going to be able to ask why someone of Little Hellfire's talent wastes her time with me. Yes. The all-new Marvelverse DC podcast, which we are looking forward to doing in January. But you can write to me about any of these things at superconnectivityblog@gmail.com. That's superconnectivityblog@gmail.com. And of course, follow me on Twitter, where we will soon be live tweeting Agent Carter, the First Avenger, Captain Carter. They've been calling her lately, so maybe she gets a promotion. Captain Carter at Charlie Esser. That's at Charlie Esser on Twitter. CharlieEsser. Look for the two E's in the middle for Squad. Thank you, everyone, and connect with us again next week.